welcome to the Peanut Gallery, and this is me building my Fantasy Premier League side. I'm going to walk you through kind of my process and my building of this team, and kind of keep you guys updated with my betting videos on how I'm doing with these. So the first thing I do when I'm building my team is I look for defenders that actually play in the midfield. And when I say that, I mean they are down as defenders in Fantasy Premier League, but they generally play as midfielders. So like last season was Lundstrom, and a few years ago was Eric Dyer. It doesn't always happen, but every now and again you get that combination. So I'm going to see if there are any that are like that. Okay, so I have determined that no, there are no defenders that in real life play in the midfield. So I'm going to be moving on from that thought process. The second thing I do when it comes to building my Fantasy Premier League side is I tend to go through all the teams. It takes a lot of time, but I go through all the teams to see if there are any bargains. Like last year, Mason Greenwood towards the end of the season was an absolute bargain, and I put him in my team before he popped off. So let's go and do that. I'm going to do that, and I'll report back and see if I find any really good bargains that I feel will kick off this season. Okay, so I've made my way through every single team, and I've basically glanced through the teams, and I've picked up 3 players that I think are quote-unquote bargains. Now, you might think 6.5, 7, and 7.5 aren't really bargains. And whilst I would agree with you, I would say that the pricing this season for Fantasy Premier League is quite a lot. They've priced a lot of players quite pricey. So you've got to be careful. That being said, these 3 players are players that tend to play further up the field. They don't necessarily play as midfielders, but they are classified as midfielders. For instance, the first one, Mason Greenwood. Yes, 7.5 is pretty steep, but we've proven that Mason Greenwood is a goal-scoring machine. And in the midfield, instead of getting 4 points for every goal, you're getting 5. So I think Greenwood for me is a must. Same with Wilfried Zaha. Now, if Zaha can kick off, if he either stays at Palace or he goes to another Premier League side, being classified as a midfield is really good. I will probably take Zaha out of my team, however, if he goes to a team like an Arsenal, probably won't go to Chelsea or Spurs. But if he stays at a Palace, or if he moves to something like probably not going to happen, but a Southampton or an Everton or Leicester, I would probably keep him in my side because he'll probably start. Now, some of you might think, oh, Jared Bowen, that's a weird one. Yes, it is a weird one, and yes, I agree that the likelihood is he might not stay in my team. But he plays as striker, but is down as a midfielder. He did very well for Hull, and he was fine for West Ham last season. So a 6.5, I'm not against putting him in my team, but I am not convinced of him yet. The next thing I'm going to do now is go and look for defenders. I tend to go for defenders that are wing backs, so right or left wing backs, because they are more likely to get me goals and assists. However, I'm not against going for a defender that I know is strong in the corners and scores lots of hits. So I'm going to go do that. Sit tight, and I'll see you now. Right, so now I have populated my defenders with a group of defenders which I'm actually pretty okay with. Let's start off with Alexander-Arnold. It's very difficult to not pick someone like him. He's proven to just be a points machine in nearly every season he's been in. Next we've got Bernardo. He's kind of a place filler. I know he might play for Brighton. He was getting a few more minutes last season, so let's see where he goes. Digne, he's again a marauding left back. He provides assists, he gets a couple of goals, and it's the same with Shaw. Shaw I picked up purely because I was actually quite surprised at how cheap he was. Considering his position, he was playing more under Ollie, and yeah, I think that's for 5, I think Shaw is a good price. Walker Peters is one where I think he's going to be quite good this season. I personally think that having seen him play for Southampton last season, and I think he was playing and he played at Spurs the season before, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. As a right back, he gets forward, but he can defend. I think that Southampton are going to surprise a few people this season. And yeah, I think Walker Peters is going to be pretty instrumental at right back for them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to populate my midfield and my forwards with trying to keep in with the budget to try for at least one good goalie. But I'm not too stressed if I'm only left with, say, like 8.5 or 9 for my goalies, because I can work around that. But now my midfielders, I need some talisman for my team. So I'm going to go see which players I'm going to have fill these roles. Okay, so now I have populated the rest of my team except for my goalkeepers. Let's starting off with the change that I actually made. I thought that I think Bowen needed to go. I think at 6.5, and I saw McNeil. I think McNeil's gonna pop off this season. I think he had a decent season last season, and I think this season he's going to help Burnley do pretty well in the attacking side of things. Then I'm going on to Aubameyang and Sterling. Well, these guys are my talisman. These are players who play at striker, who are down as midfielders. Yes, they play more on the wings, but they score goals, and we know they score goals. So I think, for me, whilst they're expensive, they're worth it, because these are going to be my money makers. These are going to be the point. These are guys that are going to make a lot of points for me. So now onto my strikers. First off, with Wilson, I think Wilson's going to do pretty well at Newcastle. I think if he can stay fit, I think he'll do pretty well. I was umming and ahhing between Wilson and Mopé from Brighton, but I think Brighton are going to struggle this season. The only time I would have put in Brighton, if I would have put in Mopé, is if I thought Lallana was going to stay fit. And I'm a little bit worried that Lallana is just a little bit too injury prone. He hasn't had a lot of time on the pitch recently. So I think Wilson, along with Fraser and Alan St. Maximum, I think that Newcastle side's looking pretty good. Then on to Jimenez. I mean, he's just a damn good striker, isn't he? He's pretty reliable, he's consistent, and for 8.5, yeah, why not have him in? And lastly, Obafemi. Now, Obafemi last season, actually, he was quietly pretty good for Southampton. So, at only 5, I only had a little bit left in order to leave myself a little bit of change for the goalkeepers. So, when I saw Obafemi at 5, I was like, yeah, okay. He comes off the bench, he gets a few goals. I'm happy. I could have him as like a squad player that he could pop off the season and partner with Ings in Southampton's side anyway. So I think then it's just the goalkeepers. I'm going to go do my goalkeepers and I'll report back. Okay, now my goalkeepers I'm not very happy with. I'm going to be completely honest. I think Nyland is fine. He is playing in Aston Villa's side whilst Heaton is not on the side while he's injured. And at 4, yeah, he's fine, but I'm not convinced with Villa's defending. So I'm worried about him, and similar goes for Kepa. I'm worried about Kepa, and the only reason I chose Kepa is I get the feeling that this season Chelsea with Thiago Silva might be able to keep a few more clean sheets than normal, and with his guidance maybe Kepa might become a little bit more relaxed, feel less pressure, and might start to perform better. As a Chelsea fan, This is wishful thinking, I am very aware of it, but I'm going to stick with this. I'm not going to change my side so I can get better goalkeepers. I'm going to trust in my goalkeepers and let's see where we go. Alright guys, so that's my team. I'm going to lock it in and I'm then going to set up my team for the first game week and give you guys a bit of a preview of how I'm going to be setting up for the first game week, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, now I've just realized that there are 4 teams that are not playing in the first round, namely United, Aston Villa, Burnley and City, and that is because of how far they got within the European Championships from last season. So because of that, I've actually made 2 changes to the original side. I have taken out McNeil and I've put in Alan Saint-Maximin. Now I think that's because he at 5.5 actually didn't see. He was quite low rated. He didn't get a hell of a lot of points last season, but I think he could do well this season, which left me with an extra 0.5 to shore up my goalkeepers. And sure enough, I've taken out Kepa and I've put in Schmeichel. I think Schmeichel is a better keeper, and if Chelsea happened to go for Schmeichel, it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. So now I'm going to go back and sort out my team for the first week, and I'll see you then. Okay guys, so this is the team I'm going to be going with for my first week. I have named my side Kepa Clean Sheet, and I hope he keeps lots of clean sheets this season. I've done my kit, and this is the team. It is not the strongest team for the first game week. I am very aware of that, but I'm thinking long term. I am thinking into the future with regards to this team. Most of this team I'm expecting to perform this season, and if they don't, well, that's why you have a wild card. So in a couple weeks time, when this team is not performing and I'm getting like no points, then we are going to go through it and completely decimate it and rebuild from the start. And if that happens, I will then be doing a video on that too. Alright, so here we go. I've got Schmeichel in goal with Trent, Bernardo, Digne and Walker-Peters in defense. Then in Saint-Maximin, Zaha and Aubameyang in midfield with Obafemi, Wilson and Jimenez up front. And all of my bench are not playing at all, so I hope every single player in my team plays. Alright, here we go guys, there you have it. That's my team for the start of the season at least. And yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you guys around. Cheers.